So it's hard to post right now given everything that is going on in the world. I'll usually link my own social medias down in the description, but today I have a bunch of different links for you to support Black content creators in the description below, as well as different places where you can go and donate, share your support with everything that's been going on. There isn't a lot that I can do, especially because I am never going to understand what's going on in the same way that there are other people that will, but at least I can share my very small platform. I can give you guys some resources to educate yourselves as I've been trying to educate myself, and I can give you guys some different Black content creators that I think you guys should go support. And I will still link the books I'm going to be talking about down in the description box below. Like, I'll still have those so you can go check out the books if you want to, but just bear in mind that my social medias, my email, everything like that, nothing else will be there. Today I am doing my May wrap-up. I'm excited to talk about the books I read this month because I had a really good reading month. Like, it was so fun. 90% of these books were like amazing, so that's exciting for me. Why does my hair look like shit? It sucks. The average rating that I gave a book this month was 4.05. Like, out of all the ratings I gave, that's the average. So I had a good month because for the past, like, I would say for all of 2020, like, it's been hard finding a book that goes above 3.5. And especially above a 4, like, finding a book that went above a 4 was honestly like a feat. It took a lot of time. This month I read 8 fantasy, which is wild given the fact that I have not been into fantasy lately. Like, almost all of the books I've read have been fantasy, and I think that's hilarious considering the books that I've been more interested in reading lately have been like contemporary, but here we are, so that's cool. I read 1 dystopia, 1 contemporary, and 1 historical fiction, adult fiction story. So that is 11 books in total. I'm really proud of that number. I think that's a pretty good number to achieve, honestly. Like, I've been able to read so much more just given the fact that I can only be here or at work, so it's been easier for me to read. So yeah, let's dive into the books that I read this month. Let's go. So I participated in the Asian Readathon this month. So the first book that I read this month was supposed to be for the Asian Readathon, and that was The Bone Witch by Rinch Peko. I ended up not finishing it. I think my main issue with the book was that I did it on audiobook and I have literally no attention span. By the time I got through 1 chapter, my mind completely forgot everything that was going on, and my mind like went directly to like tacos. Like, I could not keep focused on the story, and I had to end up not finishing it. I DNF'd it about 50 pages in. I know it's very beloved here on BookTube, so I think I might want to give it a shot, but like either on ebook or physical format, because I'm actually reading the words as opposed to listening to the words, so it's easier for me to keep my focus. I started with that. It wasn't a great start to the month, but everything picked up after that. So the next book, the first book I actually finished in the month of May, is 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. This book is a reread. I used it for the prompt for the Asian Readathon for picking an author who you don't relate to or characters you don't relate to. So obviously the author's male, I'm not, and these characters are Muslim, and I'm not Muslim, so it fit pretty well into this. It's a multi-generational story told over, like, I want to say 30 years, and it gives us a pretty good history of Afghanistan in the process, something that I know I wasn't taught about a lot in school, so I'm assuming, you know, a lot of other people weren't taught a lot about in school either. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars again. The first time I read it, I gave it 5 stars. The second time, it's a very similar pattern. I love this story. I think it is heartbreaking, but in the best possible way. Like, it is not the type of story that you can go in expecting to have a good time reading. Like, it makes you uncomfortable. It makes you question things. It makes you look at the world in different ways. And I think that's very important when you're reading a story. 5 out of 5 stars. Really loved it. And I'm hoping maybe to pick it up again within the next like decade, but I'm very happy to have reread it this year. Next. So the next book I read was for the prompt for the Asian Readathon to read a book by an author who you relate to, and the only reason I relate to this person is because she is a female. So I ended up choosing this book, and I had 0 hopes going into this because everybody said they went into this with such high hopes and they ended up getting crushed. Like, they ended up finding it a very underwhelming story. This book is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nonn. I loved this book. I went in with no expectations, like zero. I went in thinking that this was going to be like just no fun to read about whatsoever. But I loved it. It's a queer fantasy. It's a queer Asian fantasy. Sign me up. Plus, this cover is extremely beautiful and extremely whimsical, and the minute I heard the concept of this story about a girl being taken to become a king's concubine in this Asian fantasy setting, you know, I was immediately intrigued. I got this at a time where I still really, really enjoyed fantasy. I ended up loving this. Like, this was so good. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The writing was incredible. The story itself was interesting. I think the characters had depth that I wasn't really expecting given the reviews I had read. But the one part I didn't love the caste system in this, because I couldn't figure out who was who. Like, it was hard to distinguish what these different castes were supposed to look like, because the, like, demon caste was supposed to be very animalistic. And then there was another, like, middle caste, I can't remember, that was supposed to be, like, half animalistic, half human. And then the paper caste was supposed to be all human. And obviously I could picture the paper caste just fine, but the middle caste, that was kind of easy. The demon caste, though, I struggled with. Like, I couldn't picture how they were describing the different, like, entities, I guess you could say, in this. So that was a little bit of a struggle for me, but overall, like, I did really enjoy the story. I gave it 4.5. Another reason is because there was a dog death that I very much did not think was necessary in the story, so I don't like that. So it didn't get 5 stars, but I really did enjoy the story. I went out and bought the sequel, like, literally immediately after. No, I picked it up, like, literally halfway through this, because I knew I was going to love it so much. And I was correct, and I'm really excited to read the second one. Next, we didn't have such a cute time reading it, and this is going to get me in some hot water, but that's fine. I already did a whole review on it, so, you know, this is not new. Yeah, the next book that I ended up reading was Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I don't know what to say about this book. This book, I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars, which isn't a bad rating. Like, people are like,
oh my god, how dare you give a Cassandra Clare book less than 5 stars?
And it's just like, it was not 5 stars for me. It's hard for me to say that because I really wanted to go into this and read and just have the best time. Like, I expected when I did my review to be like 5 out of 5 stars. Like, I love everything about this, but every different chapter there was like something else I wasn't really a fan of. I liked a few of the characters in this. I didn't think they got enough depth for me. And I found it really funny in a lot of ways because the character that I disliked the most was a lot of people's favorite characters. And I was like, did we read the same story? This character is about as bland as an unseasoned chicken breast. Like, this boy is a boiled ass chicken breast. Like, it's James Herondale. I did not like him. Like, everyone was like, oh my god, he's deep. He's like, there's so much about him. And it's like, I didn't get anything from him. I got from him 2 things. 1, that he was the child of a warlock, so he had issues, like boohoo baby. And 2, that he loved Grace Blackthorne. So it was just kind of like, why is everyone so in love with him? I'm just like, James next, bitch. Like, I did not like him. He was one of the main reasons I rated this book so low, honestly. Like, his character, for him being Will's son, like Will Herondale's son, I expected better. I expected better quality writing of James Herondale, but I also expected a better quality character. Anyway, I did end up really liking the plot. Like, I thought the plot was really interesting through this. I think it got a little convoluted with relationship drama and character drama. Like, it was very soap opera-esque, but I thought it was an interesting idea for a story. I just don't think it was executed very well. But will I still buy the second one? Yeah. So the next book I read was actually a book that I was contacted by a publisher to read. Like, hi?
It's called Fame, Sweaty.
I legitimately was so confused. I got emailed when I had like 30 subscribers, and they were like, hey, we're gonna offer you like this book to review on Goodreads and Amazon. And I was like, oh, why? Like, I have 30 subscribers. I have like 4 friends on Goodreads, maybe 4 followers, maybe. Like, why? but I think it was because the third book either came out this month or is coming out sometime very soon, and so they wanted to like get more publicity surrounding it. So that book is The Crowns of Crosswalled by D.E. Knight. This is a middle grade fantasy story that is about this girl named Ivy who, she's lived her entire life within this like magical boundary, but then she crosses a magical boundary and she gets whisked away into this school where she has to learn to like control her powers or something like that. I liked the story. Like, I thought the characters were good. They were like good enough. The plot was interesting. I enjoyed my time reading it, but I did only give this 3 stars. And it's not because it's middle grade, because I don't typically read middle grade, but when there's a good one, I can definitely appreciate it. It had everything to do with the inherent, like, fat shaming that went on within this story. Bitch, I know y'all might be like, oh, she's just sensitive. No. There was one character at first who was like described as being round and very grotesque, and I was like, okay, that's fine, like it's middle grade, like that's funny, people will laugh, like it's this old lady, this like super fat old lady who like farts a lot, and that's really funny to like a 13-year-old, so yeah, that's cool. And then she goes on, she meets a few ghosts, and this isn't spoilers if you want to read it. But she goes on and she meets a few ghosts, and these ghosts are named, I don't remember their names. There was one named like Timothy, one named like Clark, and then the other one who was fat and described as being fat was Hungry Joe. And it got to the point where it was like the only personality trait that these characters have is being fat, and that's really annoying and kind of not a good message to send. And there was also my personal favorite character, Woodley Butterlove. Okay, that's fine, whatever. But do you know how this bitch introduced himself in this book? Like, do you know how D.E. Knight had him introduce himself? Hi, my name is Woodley Butterlove, and yes, I do love butter. And then this boy was in a predicament where, like, he literally, you know, needed to help. He needed to work together with his class to, like, save the class because they got into some hot water. And he literally was, like, paralyzed with fear, which honestly, like, yeah, probably. But then Ivy goes, listen, like, there's gonna be a hot roll with butter with your name on it if you can help get us out of this. And he's like, I'm listening. And it's like, bitch, like, yeah, sure, I do a lot for a taco, but, like, I could probably do a lot without the taco, too. Like, yeah, like, I'm fueled by food, sure, why not? But, like, bitch, like, that cannot be your only motivation to, like, help your friends and you get out of trouble. Like, come on. So that just kind of turned me off the story. But, I mean, overall, the story was, like, cute, and it was well done, but, like, that just kind of turned me off of getting the second one, which I was also offered by this publisher. So that was awkward. The next book I read really turned my mood around. This is my favorite book of 2020 so far. I've talked about it just 1.5 million times, so I won't talk about it very much. It is Bonecryer's Moon, Catherine Purdy. Yes, loved it. Fantasy taking place where women kill their soulmates in order to prove their loyalty to the gods, to become a farrier. Like, it's complex. We stan. I loved this story. It was the best fantasy I've read this year easily, possibly in a very long time. I loved what Catherine Purdy did to it. I would literally home myself for the sequel. Like, I'm really excited. There's not much else to say. 5 out of 5 stars, easy for me. I really enjoyed my time reading it. I also did like a full spoiler-free review on this one as well within my channel, so if you want to check those out, go for it. Feel free. I'm kind of messy, but like, I mean, isn't that why you subscribe? This book I read for the Asian Readathon. This was a prompt to read a book that was recommended to you by an Asian person, and I hate that I didn't love this. So I read Nothing Happened by Molly Booth, and I'm sorry because I know you're watching this and you're probably gonna be like, she doesn't like it. But no, I didn't. So I was recommended this by Coley Reads. I would check out her channel. She's pretty close to 1,000 subscribers, so y'all could get her there easy. This is a Much Ado About Nothing retelling, and it takes place at a summer camp, which is like the perfect place for this to happen. But ultimately, I did not enjoy my time reading it. I found it very juvenile. Like, all of the characters were like 16 to 18 years old, but a lot of them read like they were like 12, 13. But then there was a lot of swearing, like just like, it didn't need to happen. Like, it didn't need to every second sentence out of a couple of these dudes' mouths was just like, fuck this, fuck that. Like, and it's just like, I understand you're a teenager, but like, chill out. I know Much Ado About Nothing is full of tea being spilled built. But this was too much, like the drama. I had to take a minute and be like, woo! Like, honey, you don't need to be this dramatic over everything. Like, not everything in your life is that messy. Like, except you. Like, you're the only consistent messy factor in your life. Yikes! There were some aspects I enjoyed. I did like one of the characters. Only one of them, really. Sorry. Hannah was a really good character. I think she was this cute little bi/pan. She didn't really know what she was yet. She was still questioning gal, and she was just, you know, trying to have a good summer with this girl at her camp. So I did like that, but honestly, like, it was too much. It was too dramatic, and I had to take a step back and just be like, yikes. We're gonna relax for a second. The next book that I read oh, I didn't say. Oh my god, I gave this 2 stars. I'm so sorry. The next book that I read for the prompt to read a book by an Asian author. It's been on my radar for a very long time, so that is The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. By very long time, I mean since March, so that's not a very long time. It feels like a century ago. This book, first of all, hi, let's chat for a sec. It is so pretty. Okay, so I saw the cover before I read what the book is about, and the cover was just like so pretty. I was like, I need this in my life. Like, I read it, and it's about Mozart's older sister. I was so excited. I love interesting takes on older parts of history. Like, this is a historical fiction fantasy, I would say. It's about the Kingdom of Back, which was actually a place that apparently Mozart and his older sister would create together, and Marie Lu just kind of brought it to life given what has been made public from his like journals, and I think that's really incredible. Ultimately, this story I gave 4 out of 5 stars. 4 out of 5 stars is still great. Like, I still think this was a great book. I just don't think it was the book to like end all books. I think this was really well crafted. The writing was insanely beautiful. The story itself was incredibly unique. World building was really well done. All of the major aspects that you want a book to be, like, this hit it very well. My only issue really was that things started getting repetitive. Plot points kept getting reused, but slightly different. And that ultimately kind of brought the reading experience down a little bit, because I was like, I feel like I read that like 2 pages ago. And it was also, it's a very short book, and it takes place over, I want to say, like, the book starts when Nanurl's like 8, and then it ends in the epilogue when she's like 30-something. But I want to say it takes place within like a decade. And then the epilogue and prologue are 2 like different points in their lives. Over a decade, like, this is a very short book to be told over a decade, and I don't necessarily think it was done in the best way. Just in terms of how rushed it felt. This would have been a really great book if it had been a little bit longer and we dived into each event a little bit more. I think it would have been a lot better. But I still really loved it, and I'm still going to recommend it to a bunch of music nerds. The next book I read was not part of the Asian Readathon, and it was a continuation to a series I started in April, and that was Perfect by Cecilia Ahern, the second book in the Flawed Duology. So this was the conclusion. I can't go into too much depth because it is the second book. I liked it a lot, but I didn't love it as much as I loved the first one. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, but I'm thinking of dropping the rating down to like 3.5 or 3. Because ultimately, I found this book very rushed. Everything that happened so fast, and everything that happened also happened out of necessity. So nothing was really explained. One of my pet peeves in books is when authors create things out of necessity in order to resolve their conflicts instead of like walking through how they solve their conflicts. And everything in this story was created purely out of necessity. And our main character had entirely too much power for just being like 16 or 17 years old. Like, realistically, like, this system is something that could happen. Like, this dystopian could easily be a thing that happened. But her part in it would definitely not be as extreme as it was within this story. And also, the relationship was too insta-lovey for me, and I think that is because Cecilia Ahern is a romance author, and that's like what she does best, and so she included a little bit of that aspect in here. But oh my god, it got to the point where I was like, you are literally running for your lives, and now you're out here being like, I would die for you. Like, no, you fucking wouldn't. You would not die for her. You've been running for your life for months, and now all of a sudden you meet this bitch, and you're like, ass so thick, we gotta quit life. No. So frustrating. Anyways, so that bothered me a lot. But I did really like the story as a whole. I thought the system was really well done. The world was really well crafted. This would have done really well as a trilogy. I had just like drawn out certain aspects and certain events. I think it could have built up tension a little bit more and just ultimately made the reading experience go from like a 4 to a 5 star. But that's my spicy take. So the next 3 books, the last 3 books that I ended up reading are all from the same series. So yeah, the first book is a middle grade book, and it is Fable Haven by Brandon Mull. I picked this up because I've talked a lot about this on my channel in my very early videos, and I was like, I really haven't read this since I was 13 or 14, so I don't really know if it stands up as well as I thought it did. And it does. I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved this book. I loved the world. We didn't dive as far into the world in the first book as I think a lot of people would have liked, but I think it's necessary given the fact that this is a 5-book series. Like, if we dived too far into the world, then we couldn't keep having these moments in the second and third and fourth and fifth books. So I think it was important the way that Brandon Mull did it, and I loved the story. I did have an issue with one of our main characters, Seth. I understand Seth is a little boy, and 11-year-old boys are curious. 11-year-old children are curious. Like, always looking for adventure 9 times out of 10 and very curious, but he just got to the point where I was like, could you not follow like any rule? Like, is that so hard for you to follow a single rule? Like, you literally could stop so many problems if you listened to people. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't think any kid would really disobey that many rules in a span of like 3 months. It was a little much for me. The next book is Rise of the Evening Star, and it's the second book in the Fable Haven series. And I liked this book more than I liked the first book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and it was so good. It was a lot darker than the first one, but ultimately, it's the kind of story that you could read out loud to your kids and really like have like a family moment with it. And I think that's really cute. So finally, the last book that I'm reading this month, and I am currently reading it, but I only have like 80 pages left, so I think I can finish that today if I really like go into it, especially because these are really easy to read. It's Grip of the Shadow Plague by Brandon Mull, the third book in the Fable Haven series. This one, obviously, you can kind of guess about a shadow plague that takes place somewhere, but I don't love it as much as the second book. I think the second book set standards that are very high, but I actually do really still like it. I'm going to be giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So this series as a whole just really holds up as well as I thought it would. So if you're looking for a middle grade, I definitely would recommend. And there's a character in this story whose name is Warren. And I'm picturing him as Spencer Reed from Criminal Minds. And that just makes the reading experience go from like here to here, because I'm just picturing Spencer Reed fighting off like mystical creatures and like different like dark fairies and shit like that. And that's just enjoyable. If you've ever seen an episode of Criminal Minds, then you would 100% understand that that is funny and just makes it so much more fun to read about. But yeah, so those are the books I've read. May was a good month for reading for me. I read more middle grade than I anticipated, honestly. I'll link the books in the description below. I didn't really go into that much detail on them because this video is already long and I didn't really want to go into too much detail on all of them, because if you're interested, then you can definitely go check them out on GOODREADS. But yeah, this has been such a good reading month. My June I anticipate to be an even better reading month, so if I'm let down, I'll be sad. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever read any of these books, how you felt about them, if you recommend them, if you recommend things similar to them. I love to know, I love to chat. And until next time, bye readers!